رب رحيم مشفق.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another episode in the series Dawah Ilallah, as we look at how we can be more effective in our dawah. And we are coming towards the end of our series. It's been a very long time we've been together. And so it has come towards the end now. And so we're allowing our viewers, we're allowing our panel that are here to ask questions relating to what we have studied so far in this course. It's almost like a refresher, so perhaps those of you who have just come aboard, you're getting an idea what we dealt with. We would recommend that you go to peacetv.tv or peacetv.in or peacetv.org, where you can find out information about the entire series and where to get the entire programming if you've missed it. So we're going to go straight ahead with today and answer some of the questions, because we won't have enough time if we don't get through everybody's questions that has a question. Brother, you had a question that you would like to ask at the back.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam rahmatullah.
Sheikh, my question is, most of the Muslims, they know about the Tawheed very well, but still they are not following it properly, and they are going to wrong path, and they associate partner with Allah. So in this case, what we should do, because they don't want to hear truth also.
Jazakallah khair. Today we live in an area of instant everything. Instant porridge, instant cereal, instant coffee. Everything's instant. Just add water. It's like the phrase of this last 10, 20 years. Everything is just add water. I remember when I was at school, we had to develop a project for economics, something that they wanted to sell. You know, had a marketing strategy, advertising campaign, everything. And I remember when I was in school, which is a very long time ago, I came up with a product that was just a packet, masked murals, everything, and it said, just add water. And what was the product? Water. So I came up with a clever idea of selling water to people with just empty bag. And all you have to do is just add water to it. And it was an idea of, even then I realized that that's where society was going. This was talking about the 80s at this time. And we could see at that time already, there wasn't as much instant as there is now. We still had to make coffee the old-fashioned way. But we could see the signs. And today we live in an instant age of just add water. Just call yourself Muslim. Don't have to do anything about it. Don't have to practice it. You know what? You can take drugs and you can womanize and you can beat up your wife and you can beat up your kids and you can drink alcohol, and on Friday you can go to mosque and it'll be fine. And then once in your lifetime, perhaps you can go on Hajj and hope that everything will be removed because that was your intention. Well, guess what? It ain't going to help. When you die, you're going to be in the same queue as those people who associated partners with Allah. Not because I say so, because the very fact that when you say the Shahada, you say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, you are denying that there is any saint, that there is any magic trick, that there's any material, that there's even an intention that, oh, I'm going on Hajj because the reason I'm going on Hajj is so that I can cover up all the sins that I did on purpose, and I saved for this period so I can cover all those sins. Your intention for going was wrong. Now, what about those people who sincerely want to find Allah, who seek the truth, and are prepared to put in the time and the effort and the hard work, and they fail day after day after day, and they just feel that they're not good enough? Who do you think Allah is going to be more pleased with? The person who struggled, failed and struggled, and the guy who thought he could just find a shortcut. You know, we must live our lives as if we are never going to make it. But we must live at the back of our heart with the hope that we are. That little piece of material or string or whatever, or somebody who's making money out of you. In South Africa, we've got lots of these crazies. You know, phone this woman and she'll help you, and she can see spirits and guides and all this nonsense. She's supposed to be a Muslim. People are throwing their money at her. Men who do this. Stay away from these people. So how do you get back? How do you stop? First of all, get rid of all those things that you have in your house. Don't have anything. Get rid of all. Only thing that you need is Tawheed, which is not an object. You know, Christians, some of them, they sleep with a Bible underneath their head, put it under their pillow, and they think somehow it's going to make them spiritual. It's not going to make you spiritual, it's going to give you a bad night's sleep. You have a sore neck in the morning. It's not mysteriously going to jump into your brain and now you're going to be a better person. You know, when you were at school, some of you had that idea that you could learn for your exams by playing a recording, and you go to sleep and 1 + 1, mathematics. And I was playing and you woke up in the morning, all you woke up with was the headache. You didn't get any cleverer, any smarter. Some of you went and paid big money for those courses, subliminal mind control techniques, how to learn better. And what happened? The guy who sold you that laughed his head off. So there's no substitute for good old-fashioned plodding along. You know why people make so much money in the diet industry? Because there's people like us that believe in it. There's no proof ever that any of these medications have ever worked. The only way you're going to lose weight is by putting the time in. The only way you're going to build muscles is by putting the time in. It's not going to happen by a pill. It's not going to happen by tins. And these guys are all gymmed up and you see them on YouTube and all the rest of it. And then after they become well known for proper hard work, then they stand there with a tin and say, I used this. No, they didn't. They're lying. They use that tin because they're now getting paid by that marketing guy to put that on their website or whatever. They never used any of that stuff to get where they got. They had hard work. That's just now a marketing strategy. So there's no simple, easy way. It's hard work. Is it going to be fun? Of course it's going to be fun. Islam should be enjoyable. It should be fun. It should be exciting. Every day should be a great day. If you're walking through, I'm now going to practice Islam, and you're sad and gloomy, that's not what we are meant to do. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was big on smiling, big on being friendly. So we must be to the same. We must have that energy going. We must be excited about being a Muslim. So we're not saying that now it's all going to be tough. No, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be exciting. And there will be times where you'll have to put that extra effort in. But generally, it'll be easy once you develop this as a habit. Any other questions that you have? Let's go ask the brother right next to you at the mic there, and we can move on, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Sheikh, as we Muslim believe that Prophet Isa, peace be upon him, will return before the world came to an end, or should I say before the day of judgment, as it is a fact. But what does a Christian believe about this? Or is there any biblical text related to this?
Okay. The question is, we as Muslims believe in the return of the Prophet Isa, peace be upon him. What do the Christians believe about the same thing happening? Well, the Christians have divided understanding and voices on. The Jehovah's Witnesses believe he's already come back, but he's invisible, so no one saw him. The Protestants believe in many different ones. There's 3 different versions. One is that Jesus will come back before the trouble starts, before like the battle between Shaitan and himself, the big battle. The second group believe it will happen in the middle, and the other group believe it will happen at the end. Some people believe that when he returns, they will be grabbed up into the air and they'll float up like little bubbles into the sky. Some say that'll happen in the middle, some say that'll happen at the end. So there's different understandings of that. Generally, they believe that he'll come back and fight a battle very similar to what we as Muslims believe. They have the same understanding, but they think that he is going to come as a God to establish 1,000 years of peace on earth, where the devil at the end of this battle will be tied up in chains and he'll be put in a place. After 1,000 years, he'll be released from those chains, and then he will be allowed to cause trouble again on earth, which is very vague because they don't actually have a big understanding on it themselves. So they don't really understand the whole thing. So it's a bit of a mix-up of all sorts of different mythologies and stories, but they don't see it as Jesus coming to tell everybody, listen, I never told you that I was a God. So they don't understand, they don't believe that will happen. They don't believe that he will come and he will live out a normal life. They don't believe that he will come and he will say, where did you come up with all these doctrines and beliefs? So they believe he will come to support their work that they're doing. So this is the concept that Christianity has. Again, many of these things, when they say them, you must ask them, where did you find this? Where do you find this in the Bible? Not what your pastor said. Not what this book wrote that he wrote a bestseller on. Not what this fictional piece of writing is that another writer wrote. You want to know where you get it from in the Bible. Is it clear? Does it say such a word? Does this word exist that you're using? The words that they are using, the terminologies like rapture and things like that, there's nowhere to be found. They're just guessing. Okay, I hope that answers your question, inshallah. Before we go on to the next question, let's take a break. When we get back from the break, we'll continue, inshallah.
Costs nothing, but give us Jannah. Remember Allah's blessing and His commandment. Follow His prophets and His books. Do what He wants to get what you want.
Adopt the acts that polish our hearts from its rust and cause us to be remembered by Allah in Remembering Allah with Hussein Yee. Tomorrow at 8 p.m. and repeat telecast at 11:30 a.m. Saudi Arabia on Peace TV. Peace TV पेश कर रहा है एक ऐसी तरबियत जिसके साये में तामीर हो रही है एक नायाब सोच।
इस्लाम में मर्द औरत के दर्जे बराबर है। इल्म के गलत इस्तेमाल ने इंसान को हैवान बना दिया।
ये दुनियावी जिंदगी तो सिर्फ खेल तमाशा है।
जिसके कदमों में ताकते परवाज है, नजरों में निशाने मंजिल।
हमारे समाज अमली बिगाड़ है। बुराई को भलाई के जरिए दूर करो, जिसमें रियाकारी दिखावा ना हो।
जिसकी नुमाइंदगी कर रही है वो संजीदा नस्ल।
हर मुसलमान का फर्ज बनता है कि इस कुरान को पढ़िए, क्योंकि यही नजात की राह है।
मिलिए इस्लामी तालीमात के तर्जुमानी करते तालिब इल्मों से। मरियम पटेल, सादान सैयद, गाजी चौहान, हिबा सैयद, अम्मार सैयद, अब्सार शेख, सुबान शेख, उमैर कादरी, फैसल कोकड़ी।
कुरान और हदीस के समझ के लिए सहाबा की समझ का सहारा लेना जरूरी है।
तौहीद की हिफाजत है जिनकी जिंदगी का हासिल, जिनकी एक एक बात है तारीफ के काबिल। नस्ले मुस्तकबिल। Every Friday at 7:30 p.m. and repeat telecast at 10:30 a.m. Saudi Arabia on Peace TV. The voice of truth.
That Allah does not look at your face, but rather Allah looks at your heart and looks at your action. We Muslims know life is a test. And so in order for us to have peace, there must be standards, there must be proof.
The voice of justice.
Indeed, to all nations we send a messenger, that they will call people to worship one God, Allah.
The one who is the only one who can grant true peace.
That we are looking for.
The voice of peace.
The last and final instruction manual for the human being, it is the glorious Quran. It is the glorious Quran.
The voice standing up for all of humanity against all falsehood. Islamic Voice, next on Peace TV.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we are continuing with some of the questions that you have sent in and those questions that we have here that we are answering relating to how to do dawah in comparative studies or comparative sciences. Let's go on with the questions. The next question is?
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum salam.
My question is on Jehovah Witnesses. In the earlier classes, you said that the Jehovah Witness, they do not believe in the Trinity. And they don't believe Jesus to be the begotten Son of God. And they always use the term Jehovah instead of the word God. So isn't proving to them that the God that they believe in to be as Jehovah is not the true God, or it is not the correct name of the God, can be more helpful?
Jazakallah khair. So the question is relating to the Jehovah Witnesses. Why do they call God Jehovah? The word Jehovah is made up of 4 letters that they found, and they just added in vowels to suit them. So it could be Jahava, it could be Jehovah, it could be Jehovah. Put any vowel in you would like. How they came up with those particular versions of where the vowels must be placed is anybody's guess. But the greater question should not be why they call him Jehovah. I mean, in Zulu, in my country, they call God Nkulunkulu. In German, they call him Gott. Do you want to call God Jehovah? So the question is not so much the name, whether you want to, in Hebrew, Arabic, German, French, as long as you're talking about God of Tawheed. You don't find in many religions that the word that they're using for God, only in English you find that it can have a feminine and a masculine and a goddesses and gods and all that. Most other languages, Nkulunkulu can only mean Nkulunkulu, can only mean God, can't mean anything else. So most languages, even though they have a different word for it, still means the same. So I'm not going to get tied up in that argument too much. But the greater question we have for Jehovah's Witnesses is, why do you call Jesus Jesus? That is probably the greater question. Even though they don't believe that he's God, and they believe he's an archangel. Why do you believe that he should be called Jesus when the letter J is not to be found in the Aramaic or the Hebrew language? So who came up with this word? If anything, you could call him Yeshua, but it's very, very different to Jesus. Doesn't sound the same. So many of the Christians who are walking around casting out demons in the name of Jesus, no wonder the demons going, who are you talking about? Who is this person? So we have to understand that is the greater question. Who gave you that name? If the Jehovah's Witnesses are so particular in saying you can't call God God and you need to call him Jehovah, then they need to look at why they're calling Jesus Jesus. Surely they should be calling him, if anything, Yeshua. That would be more acceptable than calling him Jesus, or Isa, alayhi. These are the things that are more acceptable and more proof for. So we find that the same with the Seventh-day Adventists. Remember, they're going all on about the Sabbath, must keep the Sabbath, must keep the Sabbath, must keep the Sabbath, but then they're breaking all the other Leviticus laws that they get the same teachings from, all the other commandments that they choose not to follow. So it's no use just zoning on one thing. You need to keep everything. If the story is about names, and you've got to focus on names, then you better keep the other names correct. So you can't just choose one name and say we're only going to use the name of God correctly and all the other names we don't have to, and we can change names whenever we feel like it. No, you have to do it all properly. And the same is if you're going to obey certain parts of the law, you have to obey all the parts of the law if that's what you're building your doctrine around. So I hope that helps in some way, inshallah. Front row.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum salam.
Sheikh, I have a friend who believes that Islam is the best religion. But he says that what if it's not true? I mean, being best does not always mean true. So he says that what if Prophet Muhammad was a very good man? Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he was a very good man. But what if just to make the society better place to live in, he lied? So how would I or anyone give dawah to such people?
Very fair question, very good question, and one that we come across a lot. Islam is a wonderful religion. You look at it from externally, people go, fantastic, really good. But you know what? How do we know that it wasn't just made up? I mean, it could have easily been done like that. There could have been a man sitting there for 20 years going, you know, what can I think of today? Let me write this. Yeah, okay, let me write. That's the accusation. Let's analyze the accusation. What was the thought of that time about the topics that he was writing about? What were the topics that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was giving to the people? What was the common thinking of the day? Did they believe in women's rights? Did they believe that women were equal to men? Did they believe that women should be given inheritance? Did they believe that a woman should survive after she was born? Did they believe any of those things? Nothing. Why would he write against what was the culture of the day? It would have been very bad politics, very bad religion. You wouldn't get any followers. He goes exactly against what the practice of the norms of the day is, just on women. What about legal rights of animals? They didn't care about animals. They didn't worry about animals. Animal was an animal, so what? It was merchandise. It was like cash for us today. It's just a commodity to use. Why would he write such particular deep mysteries that we're only now figuring out? He had no access to a biologist's report on how ant colonies work and the intricacy of bees and the intricacy of flower. He never had access to that. No one had access to that. They're only busy trying to figure it out right now. Scientists are figuring out how bumblebee flies and trying to make electronic bumblebees in the last 5 years. It's a new development. If a man is sitting there in a cave whose experience was meeting a Christian blacksmith, maybe doing a couple of trade routes, he's never going to be able to write the great mysteries. Because even Einstein wouldn't have been able to come up with this. Not even the greatest human being and the greatest computer on earth, if you programmed it, would come up with even something as remotely close to this. If you had to develop a program and said, please program, think for yourself, come up with the most deceptive terms you can possibly come up with, and you program this into a computer, it wouldn't even come close. You can go out point by point by point by point. A man could not have done this. A group of humans could not have done this. If 1 million human beings sat down at a conference, they couldn't have done this. This is why the challenge was given to mankind. Come up with one verse. It's not the words. It's the thinking. It's the divinity behind those words. People have come up with other books, said, oh, come on, we've met your challenge. You have not met the challenge. The challenge is not to put a string of letters together, a string of words together, to come up with an ayah like this, which has so much knowledge and so much depth that it confounds the world today. The accusations have been, yes, but he copied the whole idea of the gestation period of a woman, pregnancy of a woman, from earlier writings that the Jews had. No, that's not true. There wasn't even talk of that because they would have killed the person for saying that. Those days when you said the earth was round, what happened to you? Killed you. If you went against what was the popular norm of the day, you were dead. They killed you. It's not like today where you tolerate people. It's not like the internet existed. Those days, if you went and you said the earth is round, they murdered you. If you said anything like the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ gave the revelation to mankind, the death sentence was upon you. So there weren't anybody writing stories about how the baby was formed and looked like this and that and the other. Nothing like that. These only existed much later. And who copied who? People often say that the Bible came before the Quran. It's the other way around, my friends. The Quran was in existence for 1,400 years and was popular amongst all the people for that period of time. The Bible is a new document in its form that actual people could get hold of. We have to believe that the church had it all along because they say so. But they can't produce them. They can just say they were around. We don't just say it, we can show it. So there's a big difference. Your King James Version doesn't say printed in the year 000. Your Dewey Bible doesn't say printed in the year 000. Your Catholic Encyclopedia doesn't say printed in year 000. Does it? So you have to have a look at which came first and which one's in existence with. So simply by looking point by point, you can take any point you like. Any point in the Quran, and you can look at it and you say, this is a divine way of talking. This is a divine way of thinking, not a human way. Humans could never come up with this stuff. We are the most unoriginal creatures. We think we invented something, we've never invented anything. All we've done is developed upon a previous idea. We don't come up with original thoughts. We take this and we go, why have all this? Let's just have a screen. And then we go, why have a screen? Let's make a projection. Why have a projection? Let's build a brain implant. Why have a brain implant? So we evolve from what we've seen already. We don't come up with original ideas. The Quran is a book of original thought because it's not human. It's not a human thought. Human thought is like a story. And that's why when people often read the Quran, they go, it's very disjointed. It's not disjointed. It's not human way of writing because humans write stories. They write nice little poetry, and even though it's written in poetic form, that's for memorization. It's still very much, you can take each line and it's a whole different thing that you can go into. It's not like you have to read the entire thing, even though you should. You can take one line and it can blow your mind, literally. Today we take it for granted because we have so much knowledge. But back then, can you imagine? Because they hadn't discovered 99% of that stuff. It was only recently that we've discovered most of those things. So most of the things that you read in the Quran, when they read it then, they must have gone, this is a hard thing to explain to people. They're never going to believe me when I tell them this story. Yet we find it difficult to tell people about Islam now, when we've got all the evidences and proof of science. Back those days, they didn't have that. Imagine when you told them about what it said about the flower, or what it said about gestation period of a woman. They must have thought you were crazy. That would have been much more difficult to do dawah then, and yet they accepted. Today, we've got all the backup and proof scientific miracles of the Quran. We can have books and everything. It's easy to explain. So we've got an easy job. So if people say that, remind them of these things. Go through to ask them, give me a point. Give me one of your points. Those of you at home, if you've got friends who want to know more about Islam, especially wanting to understand more about how to come closer to Allah and maybe some of the points that we raised today, please go to the Peace TV website where you can find out information where you can download. There's some really good comparative sections there. You can download these things and give it to your friends. Well, that's all the time we have for this week, so make sure you join us again, same place. So for me, Areeb Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.